The making of Hermie Frankenshift. Shift knob made from some clay that I dug out of my pond and I let it dry out a little bit and I started carving. I have never carved a thing in my life, but I figured I would give it a try, so I've got some carving tools and I sat down with a little pitcher and it took me all day, but I managed to get this, Hermie Frankenshift. I'm going to let it sit for a couple days to harden out, and typically I would probably cast that into some kind of resin mold, but I'm going to try to cast right from the clay mold. This is an older video. I'm now using green sand. This is my Petrobond. And the doors are open because this stuff is messy and you really can't pour inside because of the smoke. This is a loose pattern, meaning I pushed his head down into that sand and I'm carving the parting line. The other flask will go on top, filled full of sand, and that will capture his face. Blow it all off. I'm going to put some parting dust on it. Talcum powder. This is lilac scented. It's very lovely when you're in the foundry. That just keeps the other half of the mold from sticking to the sand and his face. So there, he's been removed right there. I'm going to do this in brass. This is an old runner and some gating, a sprue and riser from a project in a super sketchy saw blade. That let's heat it up. Let's throw that brass in that crucible. Let's miss that crucible. World's worst shot when it comes to that. So I did a skull and I did Hermie, and I'm letting them cool off. A little bit too much oil in that Petrobond. Really shouldn't be burning, but it makes a cool effect for sure. I've split Hermie's mold apart, kind of picking the sand off to see what I have. His face is starting to emerge out of this smoky sand. There he is. At least half of him. You'll know what I mean in a minute. Now I'm cutting the skull in half because it was a short pour and the back of his head was flat. And you'll see that in about 3, 2, 1, there. See, the backs of the skull and Hermie are flat. So now I'm going to go to the fly cutter and I'm going to flatten the back of his head off. And I was just going to leave it. And then I came up with an idea to do the crackheads. And you'll understand what I mean when I say crackhead. And man, those brass chips are hot, baby. Well, there you have it. I used a fly cutter and I took the back of his head off because it was a short pour yesterday on Hermie. So I have something in mind. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to re-pour the back of his head in aluminum. So I'm cutting it all up to give it a cracked skull effect. So I'm going to put this piece back in a mold and pour the aluminum on the back of it. I don't know if it'll work. Drilling some holes for that aluminum to seat into. So here's the mold. I'm going to put his face on the left mold and I'm going to put it together and then re-pour it. So the back is aluminum and it did work. There's the crackheads and you can see that shape is kind of cracked looking and the aluminum melted into the holes here. I'm going to put his electrodes in and here are the finished products. Scully and Frankenshift with an aluminum face and a brass face. Thanks for watching, everybody.